earlier this year, I had a trip to Spain, and it was a great trip. Perfect weather, beautiful scenery, massive, gorgeous limestone routes. I really love sport climbing in Spain. But I came home just a little bit frustrated because I tried a bunch of routes that I was getting on really well with. I was feeling strong when I was climbing. I felt like I was climbing well, but I was gassing out just at the top of these routes, maybe 1 or 2 moves away from like a jug that was near the chains, and just, not being able to actually complete the route, even though I felt like I almost had what is required to do it. And, I'm on holiday, so it's not the biggest problem in the world, not sending routes, but it was frustrating to be so close multiple times on the trip for multiple different routes. And it was painfully obvious that I simply just didn't have the endurance to climb 25, 30 metre routes. In Scotland, I'm either bouldering quite a lot or I'm climbing really short, pumpy, sharp sport routes, 10 to 15 metres tops. And when you add in an extra 10 metres or 15 metres, I just didn't have it. My hands were opening up. I could feel my core going. There was no pressure through my feet. I was getting that saggy bum thing. I was Elvis legging. I was just completely exhausted near the top of these routes. So when I came back home, I actually had 5 weeks until another trip to Spain. Flights were like £65. I was able to stay on someone's couch. It was almost a free holiday. How could you not book it? So I had 5 weeks to sort of rectify this issue that had been bothering me on the last trip. And I was determined to use that time to get as fit as possible in those 5 weeks. And I was really interested to see if I could actually make a noticeable difference to my endurance and fitness in such a short space of time. And the answer is yes. In fact, it made a huge difference. Huge. Here's what happened. So earlier this year, I had a training session with Dave McLeod at his home board. And at his home board, there are some horrendously difficult boulder problems. You'll see them dotted around. But actually at Dave's board, there are lots and lots of circuits, where he just goes round and round on the board, essentially making a sport route in a very small space, 60, 70, 100 moves. And in his videos, you'll see him transitioning as he gets closer and closer to doing like a really big, bold trad lead. He'll go from really hard bouldering slowly into more and more and more circuits as he ups his fitness. And this is kind of what I was aiming to do. When I was training with Dave, he actually recommended that I spend more time training on slightly steep ground, maybe not as steep as his 45 board, but steep enough with small footholds to develop an endurance and strength in the core and endurance and strength in my forearms and fingers. And that is exactly what I plan to do. Train on steep ground on small footholds. And when I got back from that first trip from Spain, my local gym, A Vertical World, had just by chance built a circuit board right there with, 5 or 6 or 7 graded routes on it with tags, numbers, where you can go round and round and round on, I think it's 20 degrees, and you can really practice endurance training. And the timing was just perfect. So I decided there and then, when I seen that circuit board, I'm going to spend 5 weeks training a lot on this board and see if it makes a difference next time I'm in Spain. And so I just started training circuits. My plan was to train on the board at least twice a week. And if I wasn't climbing like outside or doing routes at a gym, I was planning to do it up to 3 times a week. So that would give me between 10 and 15 sessions to get fit. And I found this sort of structured training really, really, really different from what I have been doing in the past. I mean, aside from hangboarding, which is very structured, I've never really had a proper structure to what I'm doing at the gym. This was totally different. This is a board where I've done basically all my training, endurance training for the past 5 weeks. I don't actually know how steep it is. 21 degrees, so it's not that steep actually.
Yeah, it certainly feels steeper when you're on it. Because I'm actually not doing any hard bouldering, what I'm actually doing is, for my warm-up, I'm fingerboarding. And I'm doing basically my fingerboarding routine as my warm-up, because when I'm on this, I'm actually not pulling that hard. These holds that I'm on are actually pretty big holds. It's just when you've been on it for like 7 or 8, 10 minutes, they start to feel really small. So I was worried about my fingers getting weak, so I've been doing fingerboarding for my warm-up, and I've actually been going pretty hard.
I actually do this routine at the house, and then I jump in the car and go to the gym. It's only a 10-minute drive, and that's where I do the circuits, because I just prefer using the same hangboard for consistency so I can track where I'm at. Firstly, as always, I would do some light no hangs to warm up. So that's feet on the floor for a few minutes to get warm. And then I just keep it really, really simple with 7-3 repeaters. So that's 7 seconds on, 3 seconds rest for just 5 reps. And I do 4 sets of that for each grip that I'm going to use. So first would be a 3-finger drag, and then I would do another 4 sets for a chisel or a crimp grip. And I do all of this on the 20mm edge. If I'm struggling to finish the last rep, I might switch to the 25mm edge or take some weight off using my feet. It's a really short and intense routine, and it works. And most importantly, I've never injured myself on the fingerboard. After that, my fingers feel really warmed up, but I still have enough strength left for circuit training. As always, I'm using the excellent Door Mount Pro from this week's sponsor of the channel, Frictitious. A hangboard in your home is absolutely the most convenient way to train your fingers, because if it's convenient, you'll actually do it, and that's what matters. Whether it's just 1 minute whilst the kettle boils or a dedicated routine like this, in the house with no barriers between you and your training is the way to see results. The Door Mount Pro is unique because of how quickly you can install and remove the board with no drilling, absolutely no damage to the door frame, and it's ready out the box. So if you live in shared or rented accommodation and people aren't so psyched about a permanent fixture in the wall, this is ideal. There are 2 flavours of the hangboard, the 5 and the 7, which have different configurations of edges to suit you. I like the 7 because it has a 20 and a 25, as well as a 35mm edge, which is good for warm-ups. So if you want to up your finger strength this summer, rehab an injury, or work on your fitness and endurance like me, get a hangboard in the house. Check out Frictitious using the link below, and they even do free shipping in the USA. Right, let's get back to the video.
And then I've been on this board at least twice a week, and if I haven't been climbing, like climbing outside or climbing routes, I've been on the board 3 times a week. And the session is only 2 hours, and that's including the warm-up and, you know, a break and stuff like that. So it's quite a short session, and it's pretty intense. So the aim really is to work the fingers and the forearms to exhaustion, but also to work the core muscles by keeping tension on the feet the whole time. So try not to cut loose, and really to go to failure. In addition to all that, what I'm really working on is resting, like how to recover on decent holds, get some back, and then continue on. So on this black and white circuit here, the start holds are really, really good. So I go around once, and then I really try and get it all back. And these are quite, well, these are buckets really, big holds. And I'm really trying to get as much back as I possibly can, rest, chalk up, and go round again if I can. I think that's key, is learning how to rest, like how to move your body around, take one arm off, shake. I think that's actually a skill that I need to develop. And I think half of the training isn't actually even just about fitness. I think that's half of it, but the other half is understanding what it feels like to be totally pumped out your mind, feeling like you can't do one more move, and then doing one more move, you know? Because often on routes, that's the problem, is I'm one move away from the jug rest. But I'm too boxed and I go, I'd say take. But when you practice being totally boxed out your nut, and then you're on the wall, on rock, you're like, oh no, I could maybe do one more move. And like half the time you're right, you know?
It's like proof you can.
It's proof that you can do one more move when you're absolutely rinsed, yeah.
I mean, doing circuits doesn't feel good. Half the time you're down climbing, which feels absolutely horrible, and there's no like goal other than to just get pumped out of your mind. There's no like dopamine hit from ticking a route or unlocking a new move in a boulder, it's just pain. And also over the course of the session, you don't make those breakthroughs. You just kind of get worse and worse and worse until there's no point training anymore. And then that's the end of the session. So it's a hard way to train. And I think for a lot of people, they would not enjoy this sort of training. It's pretty miserable, actually. Having said that, I actually really enjoyed this type of training. I really enjoyed like ticking off my little logbook, knowing that I was one session closer to that trip in Spain and that I was going to be one session fitter in Spain. That kept me going over the sort of miserable climbing that is circuit training. Also, over the 5 weeks, I didn't even really notice any drastic improvement in my fitness. Like, it didn't actually feel like what I was doing was paying off at the time. Some sessions I'd actually be worse than the previous session if I was tired or if they were too close together. It wasn't like when you're working on a boulder, for example, and you can see progress every time you're unlocking this next move or you can link this section. It wasn't like that at all. The progress was not linear. If I was making progress, I was getting like 1 or 2 or 3 more moves further around the circuit, but there was no like breakthrough moment in this. But it's certainly not a social thing. I struggled to get anyone to come with me and do circuits with me. I felt very isolated, sort of in the back of the gym with my headphones in, just doing boring training. But that's what I felt I needed to do. But I did actually complete 5 weeks on the board. I did at least 2 sessions every week. I think I did 12 total over the 5 weeks. And then as quick as you know it, that 5 weeks was over and I was off to Spain to see if any of this actually made any difference. First day of the trip arrives. It's a brutally hot day. For some reason, we pick a sunny crag. I'm tired from traveling the day before, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided to get on a 7A plus first route of the trip. And I put on my shoes, pull on, and by like the 3rd clip, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm feeling way fitter. Like this is the first time I'd been on rock since the last trip to Spain. The whole time I'd just been inside on that circuit board, the time in between. So this is the first time that I've ever been on rock since I've been training, and as soon as the pump starts to come, I can feel myself managing it better. I can feel more pressure through my feet. I can feel my core is less tired and I can maintain my body position more. And it's like a massive difference. I just know for sure I am way fitter. I ended up getting that route second go, which for me, 7A plus, second go is like massive, massive jump in performance.
Come on!
Come on.
Fucking yes! Come on! Fucking yes! Yay! Woohoo! Well done!
Pushed it.
Pushed it!
Fucking yes!
Next climbing day of the trip, I tie in, same story, feeling really, really fit, climbing really, really well on the first route. And basically every day, every climbing day of that trip, I was ticking routes, and these are like big 30, 35 meter, 40 meter routes. And I'm just feeling way, way, way fitter. Not necessarily stronger, just being able to recover more, and the pump is just staying at a point where I can still climb, I can still think. One of the things I really noticed is when inevitably I actually did get tired, which I still was tired on the routes, I wasn't like some super fit machine, I just felt like I could still actually do one more move. And I'm not sure if that's because I was actually that much fitter or whether I'm just so used to being pumped because I'm been on that board for so long that I'm like aware, I'm familiar in this territory, and I'm like, oh no, I've still got one more move in me. I just felt like I could dig a little bit deeper in the tank, and the tank was just a little bit bigger, enough to get me to that next rest, which allowed me to send the route. And I know people don't like to be too grade or results driven with climbing, but for me, it is really plain to see. I climbed like 7As or above on that trip in 7 days of climbing. And I on-sighted my first 7A. Since I've come back, I've on-sighted my first 7A plus. Like, I definitely just am way, way, way fitter, and I've got way more endurance just from those 5 weeks of really busting my ass on that circuit board. So when I get back home from this trip, I'm just filled with confidence with my climbing at that time, and I decided that I've got to strike while the iron is hot. It's spring in Scotland, and now is the time to get on something really hard. For me, really hard. There's a route at Upper Cave in Dunkeld in Scotland called Hamish Teddy's Excellent Adventure. It's a classic 7B+. It's probably the most famous 7B+ in Scotland. And I feel like for a lot of Scottish sport climbers, this particular route is like the test piece and the gateway to the harder grades, 7C, 8A and beyond. It's a 25-metre pump fest. It's hard from the ground, and it's on magnificent schist in the forest in a perfect setting. It is, for all intents and purposes, a perfect route. And I've always wanted that to be my first 7B+, just because it's such a classic and it's so close to where I live. In 2025, I'd actually done all the moves on a top rope, but I couldn't even link two bolts together. Every move just felt like a limit boulder for me, and the chances of sending it at that time were zero. But this year was different. I had a year's experience under my belt. It was cooler, it was drier, and I was way fitter.
Fuck! I'm off! Fuck! Actually got the fucking move as well.
You got it. Nice.
Oh!
Nice, Mike.
Oh, massive jug. Oh God, the end is always just so much harder than you think, even though it's not that bad. Oh. Oh yes. I'm so pumped, even though I'm just at the chains. Oh. Go! Oh my God! Oh, so pumped! Oh, that was good. Psyched.
Super good.
Yeah.
So there you go, that's my first 7B+. There is just no way I would have ever been able to climb this route unless I had done those circuits, because I just don't think that my rate of improvement as a climber was fast enough in terms of endurance and fitness by just going bouldering and going climbing. It just wasn't happening for me. I needed to do some dedicated training. And all that training is even more satisfying because the results are shown in such a pronounced way. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd be interested to know if you've ever done circuit training, or if you think that what I did was like not the most optimal way to do it, or if you've never done circuit training. I'd be psyched, you know, if you watch this video and give it a go, let me know. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace.